Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast, episode 31. Rukshan tells me off air, so if that is factually incorrect, you can take it up with our technical support that was recently fired. Rukshan, how have you been?
I've been very good, actually. It's been a good start to the week for me. So great to get back into news coverage full time as us, independent journalists. With the way things are going, I feel like with Zuckerberg, which we'll probably talk about later,
Oh, we didn't
but
even, yeah,
he's
that's not even on my list, but yes.
him taking the knee. It's added a lighter step to me as well. So it's been a good start to the week seeing Zuckerberg take the knee.
I know it is way better than seeing him take the knee now than he did in Black Lives Matter, but we'll get into all of that shortly with our esteemed guest, which I'll introduce, or I'll get her to introduce herself in a moment. Just to remember, guys, we're going to start on all the platforms. So, whatever platform you're watching this on now, whether it's X, YouTube, Rumble, what else are we on? I don't even know. We're on all the channels now. If you want to comment in this part of the segment and we can bring it up on screen, I kind of manage the comments, so I can barely read. So, do it slowly. Now, get your comments up there. I'll post some of them or as many as I can on screen, unless you say something nice about Rukshan. That I will not post on screen. And then at the end, we will spend a few minutes in the club, the prestigious, elitist club of Rebel News Plus. So at the opposition, so go to theopposition.show. That's it. Just type that at the top, theopposition.show, and click on today's episode, which you made me remember right now. I will flip over and make sure it's live on the actual website. But that's where you, at the end, you can watch the whole segment,
Yep.
the whole episode there. And then at the end, you have the opportunity to join us live by clicking the blue button below, join us live. And I think we'll get Daisy Cousens. Welcome, Daisy.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for
Great
joining
to
us
have you
now.
on.
For those who don't know who you are, who are you, and where can they find you when they want to chase you up after some of the most controversial takes you have tonight? Exciting.
Well, hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Daisy Cousens. I have a YouTube channel, which is Daisy Cousens on YouTube. I'm also a host on ADHTV Australia, which, fun fact, everyone, stay tuned because ADH has actually teamed up with Newsmax, the American News Network, and
Wow.
in in a short amount of time, we will be Newsmax Australia, actually. So watch this space. That
Wow.
should be good fun. But I host a show 3 times a week there, and I'm on all of the socials. Really, what Facebook and Instagram, those three. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
Well, that's
awesome. I think,
fantastic. That's some news already, breaking news. Has that been announced? I haven't seen that anywhere.
yeah, same.
Daisy?
Daisy froze for a second, but no, I haven't heard the news.
Let
Too much news
me
as well.
let me get off my Wi-Fi. Let me do the thing that Australians have to do, unironically, which is rely on our data plans.
She should have signed up to Starlink, Harvey.
Starlink,
This is
mate.
what happens.
Starlink is where you should have
gone with
gone.
Starlink with Elon Musk's technical knowledge.
I hope
With
Newsmax gets them some Starlink happening.
yeah, that should be the first upgrade that they do. So switch back to the double screen till
yeah,
we get
she's
Daisy
frozen on us. Maybe. Oh, here we go.
back.
I'll see when she's. Anyways, that was some pretty exciting news on the spot. So, guys, I've just made sure it is live now on the website. That was my bad. The opposition.show, so you can watch the whole show straight off the website if you're a Rebel News Plus member. And at the end, we're going to have that little short segment where we hang out, have a chat, take some calls if anyone wants to join in. That'll be the last. I think tonight we'll stay live on most of it. I'll see how she's going. We'll get her to come back in. Let's just take a few comments while we're sitting here. Hey, what do you reckon?
Yeah, let's take a few comments. Put them on there.
Yeah, that's just a hello, Rukshan, and hey everyone. Short order cook one. Do you reckon short order cook one stands for like a cooker? It's my kind of person.
Well, we have been referred also as cookers, so we are all one, I guess.
3 great Australians. Like I'm flabbergasted at people calling you an Australian. Okay, let's take a look. I think we've got Daisy back. I'm pretty sure. Yep, she's on guest 2. Let's see. Is she frozen? Yes, we've got her
Hey
back.
guys, sorry about
Welcome
that.
back.
Look, we were worried because that would have been that would have made you our longest lasting guest.
Gosh, well, I don't know if you heard me before. I cut out, but I did what it's so unironically Australians have to do in these situations, which is get off our Wi-Fi networks and get onto our 4 or 5G because the internet in this country is so completely crappy. So I am old school on my 4 or 5G at the moment, but seems to be working better than the
No,
Wi-Fi,
it is
which is
doing well now.
sad.
Have you looked at
Yeah.
Starlink? I'm not paid by Elon, but I did use it traveling across the country in the US. Sorry, and I found like most of the time, especially download was very good. Upload, that's the thing for content creators. It was quite difficult. Upload was not great.
Hmm.
Download was really good. So for this, it might not be great because you're obviously relying on both download and upload. But I don't know how it is in Australia. I imagine that is the future. The fact that you can
I
get
would say
internet
so.
pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
2025, it shouldn't even be an issue.
I know, right? I know, right? I should look into Daddy Elon's network. Everything he touches turns to gold. So I'm sure it's the same with internet.
So, Daisy, well, I think you just got us excited there by that news you just dropped on us.
Yes.
Newsmax, is that something that was announced already? I haven't seen anywhere, and myself and Rukshan, we look at ourselves as number one in alternative media and about number 42 or something. We both haven't heard anything. When did this news drop, and when can we expect that change? And does that
Yeah,
mean you're going to be on
it's
satellite?
look, I'm the details are almost completely ironed out. Is the impression I get? I'm not 100% sure when it's going to launch, but it will be in the very, very, very near future, from what I'm told. But yes, we will be the Australian arm of Newsmax. So yes, Newsmax Australia. It's got a nice ring to it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Newsmax is an amazing network in the US. They came around just at the right time. They're big on Trump, which of course at ADH we're big on Trump as well. So no, I think it's going to be a really fun and a really productive thing. So watch this space, everyone,
We're
and soon you
definitely
will see
watching it, but
Newsmax
is it going to be
Australia.
like a 24-hour news site, or is it just kind of the same online videos? Or you're not going to tell us yet? This is all part of the
You
secret.
might have to wait and see, Avi.
Sean, what do you reckon? What do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. I still
Look-
think with our diversity between me and you, we still have a good shot.
I actually like the idea of getting some more support down under with alternative media, and no one does it better than the Americans. And Newsmax is one of the top ones up there. So really exciting news.
Yeah, they're great.
But there is so much news happening at the moment. I think where we have to start is literally the fires taking place right now. I think this is, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was live when
Is that the Hollywood Hills?
Yeah, that's live shots, I think, at the moment.
Oh,
Maybe I'm wrong. Crazy to see what's playing out. Have you been following it, Daisy?
Yeah, it's so upsetting though. Like periodically throughout the day, Paris Hilton actually posted something really moving this morning. She said she was literally watching her home in Malibu just burn to the ground, and she said her organization was contacting all the relevant people to work out how they could best support the people whose houses were burning down and things like that. But it's a sobering reminder, isn't it, that it doesn't matter who you are in life, whether you are a Hollywood celebrity or a king or a queen or, a lowly peasant folk like the rest of us are. Natural disasters are the great equalizer. It is a sobering reminder. It doesn't matter who you are. If there is a fire or a storm or a lightning strike or an earthquake, like we are all rendered exactly equal, and that's what we're seeing in this case. So it is a reminder of our own fallibility, and in a weirdly esoteric sort of way that even though we're all different, we're all very much the same, you know, which sounds a bit wanky, I know, but it's just dreadful watching it all unfold. And my prayers are with all the victims.
Ruxan, have you been following what's going on? And has anyone blamed?
I
Because
have
I remember
been.
when this happened a few
I
years
have
ago
been
in
following.
Australia, it was climate
Yeah,
change.
so
Has that happened already?
it has happened, and the Australian politicians have actually jumped on the bandwagon. So if you go to X, you can look up Monique Ryan. I think she's already
Oh
blamed climate
God,
change.
not her.
So she's jumped on. Albanese's blamed climate change, and a few others. But the interesting thing is here,
Well,
obviously,
first, when you were talking about the James Woods, his house, I saw that his house also got burnt down.
yeah. But you know what? Some of the lefties in America were like
celebrating. I've seen posts like
celebrating. Yeah,
mocking
they were
him.
celebrating James Wood. That's right. Yeah.
Well, in fact, I saw not just like some of the biggest, what I call unverified losers now, the guys that have been complaining about their verification. I'm pretty sure I saw he did one that.
There was a video that blamed the Jews.
I'm surprised.
The fire.
Look, Suleiman, I'm surprised he hasn't called it an Israel fire yet.
There was an organization that was blaming the Jews.
Oh, was it? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Was it the Candace Owens organization?
No, the argument was that if money wasn't sent to Israel, people in Hollywood would not be being displaced like the people in Gaza are being displaced as well.
Oh my
by the fires.
These guys are nuts. Anyways, I thought I saw him.
Wow.
I saw a bunch of them.
But jump on Monique Ryan.
Yeah,
I think she had a take. But the interesting thing is, like, some people are also suspecting that there are, of course, there's natural fires, but there are also arsonists involved in some of these new fires that are popping up. So it's a mixture of both. I think, from what I've seen.
It usually is. I remember those big bushfires in Australia a few years ago. What the lefties were jumping on them and blaming climate change, but it turned out that one, there'd just been no hazard reduction, or almost no hazard reduction burning done for like 10 years prior. So the whole thing was basically a tinderbox ready to go up. And two, there were like people literally lighting them because they were bored or for whatever reason.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, many of them were named climate change.
Yeah.
They were arsonists by the name of climate change.
Yeah.
Is this supposed you were talking about with Monique Ryan?
That's one. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
It says California will happen. So Paul Mullins, the former New South Wales Fire and Rescue Commissioner, says the California wildfires are happening because of climate change and what we predicted. We could prevent more tragedies like this by acting more effectively to reduce our dependencies on fossil fuels. These guys are so vile.
And it's crazy, right? Because when you see, right, I don't know if you've seen, Daisy, like with Governor Gavin Newsom in California, like, you know, water's running out of the fire hydrant taps there. There's
Trump kind of reacted. Trump reacted
they're low on water. They're burning water.
That federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes.
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest home.
Anyways, Trump there pointing the finger at Newsom, and in fact, he posted on X on True Social. I retweeted it. He's calling him Newscum. That's his Newscum. Here we go. One of our best and most beautiful parts of the United States of America is burning down to the ground. Its ashes, and Gavin Newscum. Gavin Newscum should resign. This is all his fault. But I think that was something similar to what we saw here during the fires of it was 2019. It was end of
Yeah,
2019, beginning of 2020 because it was right before COVID hit. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not
yeah, that
mistaken.
was when it was.
And
Yeah.
everybody and remember that in America they were sharing these like on CNN these dramatic maps of Australia and the
Oh,
whole thing was red and they were saying like
yes.
the whole Australia's on fire. But at that time as well, I remember um, the left was pushing uh, this narrative that this is absolutely 100% climate change, and anybody that's discussing some of the back burning and the fire things that they have to do, they were just conspiracy theorists.
Mm. No, I remember all of that. I made a YouTube video about it at the time, quite an in-depth YouTube video, sort of going through all of that. And yeah, it was a good sort of precursor to the way the left behaved about COVID. It's like you can't say this, otherwise you want to kill people, or you don't care about people. The way that they were so intent on driving home that, oh, this is climate change narrative. And I remember just going through the things, and like reading about the hazard reduction burning that just hadn't been done.
Yeah.
What it should have been very exposing of is just how much green tape there is in Australia for people who own properties to actually manage their own land. I mean, I was looking at, say, the laws from memory in Queensland, for instance, where there were a few fires, but not that many. You can, so long as you're like within reason, you can basically burn whatever you want on your own property. You just have to let the local fire authority person know. It's all very chilled out. In New South Wales, though, at least last I checked, there are like ridiculous amounts of laws you have to sift through before you can hazard reduction burn on your own land. And you have to let like the top people of the chain know. There's these weird laws from memory about like you can't burn within 2 meters of a body of water, like ridiculous stuff like that. Then there's the heritage rules. You can't burn on like a potentially Aboriginal site. Like, and this is on your own land. So what it should have
Mhm.
exposed was at least in part, was the layers of bureaucracy in this country that prevent people from keeping their own properties safe from bushfires. But instead, no, it's climate change, and no one can say anything else. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think, like, honestly, like reading into some of the stuff that's being said now in relation to these California fires, it seems like a lot of that, because how woke is California? So, in terms of their hiring practices for the firemen, I've seen these articles where it shows you that they were trying to hire, these diversity hires to be firemen, and now today they're putting out calls saying that we're low on firemen to fight these wildfires, like they're looking for volunteers. So it's insane how these kind of advanced societies in the West tend to do this to themselves, because all of a sudden they're too, they don't want to even manage nature anymore. They don't understand what nature does in these instances, because it's unforgiving when these fires do catch on. So you'd think these advanced societies in the West and countries like Australia would in fact want to manage the land around them, especially when they're living in these type of environments. So it's insane how it's become like this, because I think it's going to become more.
yeah, I
Oh,
think we have here. This is what
you got it?
this is. I think this is the
Well,
fire
this is
chief,
one of the
isn't it?
fire
Super
chiefs. Yeah.
inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me. I'm super inspired.
What do you reckon, Daisy? When your house is burning down, and you need help, you have two choices. You can either have, one woman, one man that identifies as a woman, or nobody showing up because we can't hire men. Who would you pick to come and save your property and your life?
Oh, well, that's a difficult choice. I think in in that case, I might be sort of, tying my bed sheets together and sort of slinging them out the upper story window and trying to kind of save myself by abseiling down the side of my house because I don't know about you, but diversity hires in fields like the firefighting squad, the police. I'm going to throw this in: airplane pilots, the army. Those kind of very
Hold on,
physical professions.
don't you think women can fly planes? I can understand the police and firefighters and the army. Why are you saying women can't fly planes? Next, you're going to tell me they can't drive.
I'm not saying they can't fly planes. There are plenty of, I'm sure, brilliant pilots who are women. But if you start trying to put quotas in pilots, you're inevitably going to end up with people who are not as good as other people who might have applied. Like, that's just kind of the rule of quotas.
It's
basically.
true.
I mean, look at the Labour Party.
And then it leaves us with that massive problem of who's going to cook me dinner. That's a joke. That's a joke. Everybody, calm down.
That's the main problem. Everyone, that is a joke. That is a joke. But no, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I have immense respect for anyone who was a firefighter. That's a job I could never do. Like, male or female, if you're a firefighter and you're good at your job, like, you come and rescue me from my burning house. Hopefully my house doesn't burn down. But if I had to, instinctively make a choice, I would prefer the person to rescue me from my burning house be like a 6'4" built, massive armed male firefighter dude who I have full confidence will be able to sling me and my two giant
I'm starting to get very suspicious about
this.
I'm starting to get very suspicious about this scenario. It's sounding more like a fantasy.
How dare you? Oh my gosh.
I think on that note, we should move on to the next story, making, I guess, waves around the world. Our friend Zuckerberg has done a backflip.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower-severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch...
I think most of us have actually heard the speech. I guess, Daisy, what's your take on it?
Yay! That's my
Do you trust him?
very rudimentary take. Probably not as far as I could throw him. But I do think that Zuckerberg, well, we all know he's a very smart man. And I do think he sees the writing on the wall, and I think he's seen it for a long time. I mean, we saw last year before the election, he was already kind of cozying up to Donald Trump a little bit. He called him a badass after the assassination attempt. He made noises here and there about free speech. He was already sensing the cultural winds and electoral winds were well and truly shifting. And I think even like prior to that, when Facebook, like he was so into Black Lives Matter and so into the woke agenda and putting all those restrictions on political content and topics like immigration and gender, he saw the cultural winds there as well. Like he saw who was sort of in charge. So Zuckerberg will go with whoever is in charge, I think, is what we're seeing. He understands people's appetites have changed. He understands people are sick of the wokery. And he is acting as such. He's seen the influence of Elon Musk. I think, all those billionaires, they all kind of, relate to each other in some telepathic level. I'm 100% sure. And yeah, now he's done this. I find it just extraordinary because I don't know about you, but like this was the Facebook that I dreamed of 7 years ago. Like it's what you mean? We're allowed to promote political content again? Because as you guys will know, when that decision was made by Facebook to stop promoting political content in favor of sort of family content because it was stressing people out, that was like a death knell for independent content creators. Like that made our lives really, really hard.
For myself and Rukshan, it got even worse. We had RMIT Fact Lab on us, and they were responsible. Well, I ended up taking them to court. They were literally responsible for throttling the Rebel News account, the Rukshan account. But me personally, see, I'll believe Zuckerberg when he gives me back my pages that were banned. I lost about 1 million followers on Facebook.
It's a sore spot for you, Avi.
Yeah, it is. I'm not allowed to open a Facebook page in my name. So first they banned my name after there was a mass campaign led by what's Faruqi's son's name?
Osman Faruqi.
Osman, yeah.
And then I lost more pages because of their recidivism policy, which means even if you don't break the rules, just the fact that you're reopening this another page with the same name and the same content, it's banned. So the only thing that we could have was Rebel News Australia, but then it was hit by what you're saying, where they were de-promoting or whatever they were calling it, political content. So it became kind of useless to have. And then on top of that, we had RMIT Fact Lab, fact checking the most bizarre stories, like the one of Dean Lee lying at the shrine. There was zero reason for that to be, because remember when they first said they were introducing these fact checkers, it was to stop misinformation about, so they were talking about electoral fraud, medical misinformation, because they were saying that it was in the middle of the pandemic. So they wanted to stop people spreading but then they were going around targeting any kind of conservative thing. And that story was really around the lighting of the lights on the sacred shrine, the transgender or I think it was a trans colors on the
rainbow flag,
or was it the gay flag? Whatever it was something along that. And so then Fact Lab went and fact checked this weird story that had nothing. Like I had the head of the police on the shrine telling me there were no threats. And so then Fact Lab did this big thing, and their evidence that there were threats was this Dean Lee, who I said was lying. The point being that then you go and look on their website, all their fact checks were targeting conservative only story or anything that is perceived as right-wing story. So I believe him that he's getting rid of the fact checkers. And the reason why I believe him that is, even from a business position, if you look at X has set up this system that is basically getting the public to work for free and a lot more effectively, a lot quicker, and a lot broader. So they don't pick which stories that they fact check, and they literally within an hour sometimes there's community notes, like on things that are going viral, there's community notes. I see the recommendations all the time, and they move. Like sometimes they get it a bit wrong, and it naturally, the market kind of sorts it out. The community, you can't lie to such a large amount of people. And so Zuckerberg's looking at that and going, why am I paying? Because what came out in our lawsuit is how much they were paying just RMIT Fact Lab here in Australia. So think about how many fact checkers that they're paying around the globe to do this rubbish work, when they can get they can get it
Well,
more effectively
each
for free.
each country, Avi, each country has multiple fact checkers set up who are
Yes.
being funded by Meta, Facebook,
And I imagine they
and
all have similar deals.
similar deals. And you saw that the International Fact Checking Organization, when this happened,
Yeah.
they held an emergency meeting because it kind of dismantles their whole fact checking operation, because Meta was what was keeping them afloat. Like
Yep.
Zuckerberg was willing to spend all that money on that fact checking operation because at the time, like Daisy said, it worked for him. It was the popular thing to do within the authoritarian governments around the world. Like that's what they were asking for. Now the winds have changed and he's gone the other way. So I definitely don't trust the guy one bit whatsoever. The only redeeming quality I think with what's happened is that they actually acknowledged that it was community notes and what X has been doing. So
I know.
they were
Do
very
you remember
honest
how everyone
about.
was mocking that in the beginning?
Yeah, they were mocked at the start. So
Like all of them were
have that
mocking it.
acknowledged, to have that acknowledged by Meta, who was like the opposite of X in terms of their foray into censorship, is huge. And that's
a good point.
I think
A good point in the comments as well is, what about taking down the scammers and profile stealing? Like that is a massive problem. You know how I said to you, I'm banned from opening a page in my name, but that hasn't stopped. Drones of I don't know if they're Indians or Pakistanis or someone in Nigeria.
I'm running all the RVMini pages.
They're creating RVMini pages and then
Rukshan's running them all.
It's probably all Rukshan's cousins.
I'm running the whole operation. The whole business is around
Rukshan's entire family. They're sitting there and they're commenting on Rebel News stuff and like telling people to go to like some drawer and it's all in my name and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no recourse. Like there's no way you can't talk to Facebook because
that's actual crime. That's actual crime.
Yeah.
That is targeting grandmothers and elderly people, for instance, that might not be, fully into the tech stuff. And they're falling
and it's
for
pretty
it all the
convincing.
time, so.
Like they were pretty good at it. Like at one time, one of the messages that were, telling it was like in my name, convincing people to join. So you just have to, and that you automatically win some like prize that I was doing. I was so convinced I signed up for it, and then I realized I didn't even set it up.
But no, you're right, Rukshan. That is actual crime. Like that is actual. That's actually defrauding people out of sometimes money and time and energy. So yeah, no, you're right. Like focus on getting rid of that. Get that off Meta. Get that off Facebook and Instagram. And then sure, we can all agree that should be got off. But if you're just getting off people's opinions because some lefty fact checker doesn't like it and sees an opportunity to enact an agenda or just be generally annoying, no one wants that except for the lefties.
Yeah, exactly. And the last point that I want to make is it's crazy in terms of a business what Meta did during that time, because they actually had the audience for political content. They actually had the audience who were kind of in that age group, who had been using Facebook for a few years now, like a decade or so, and had, matured and were more interested in politics. And you saw during COVID, like these communities popping up, people were engaged in politics, and it was a kind of a natural platform for that switch to happen. And they gave all of that away at the behest of the government, Zuckerberg claims. But at the end of the day, ultimately, he did that for money. As he is right now, whatever he's doing is a business decision for money. That he sees that this is the way that his company is going to be profitable under a Trump administration. So, he's a coward. He pretends like he's some sort of free speech warrior now. He's going to take on governments around the world with Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, when push came to shove, he hid behind the government then. And now he's hiding behind Trump in terms of this whole free speech fight. And for Meta and for Facebook and Zuckerberg, as great as he is, it's always been about the profits and the money. And I believe that's why he's doing this.
Maybe I'm just hopeful. I'm hoping he's genuine and he's grown up a bit. I might be a dreamer. But I think the one thing that'll prove it one way or the other is if he does what Elon did at the beginning, and that is unban all those pages that he took, give people the chance to actually not breach, and then to also remove those shadow bans from whoever is being targeted for having political or conservative political. Because it's not all news pages that lost their reach. It was conservative news pages for some bizarre reason. Anyways, I say we move on to the next matter. This is yesterday, Donald Trump. Let's start with this part of the speech, which was, as Donald Trump really is, entertaining.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. Many things are happening that are exciting.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
What is the strategy?
Yeah. I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion.
Your position is clear, but have you directed your staff to take specific actions to drop plans? And can you elaborate again? You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
I'm frozen.
It's sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. Before it started, I can tell you that. A deal could have been made just by an average deal maker. Deal could have been made on that. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too. And the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers, record numbers.
I chose The Guardian just because I thought that would have the most triggering parts of
selection
of the speech. What's your take on it regarding the Panama Canal and Greenland? Do you know much about the background to all that? And is this just Trump playing around, trolling? Is it him beginning the negotiation by scaring the crap out of everyone? What's your take on what's happening now?
Oh, well, I think my initial take, guys, was, gosh, I've missed this. I have so missed this. I have so missed Donald Trump doing a press conference and just saying some mad stuff that goes and makes all the establishment world leaders and mainstream media moguls absolutely like flip their switches, which is exactly what has happened over this Greenland Panama Canal. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is like hooked to my veins. Seriously, I'm loving it.
Do we have a chance? Is there any chance that he'll invade Australia to save us?
Oh God, I hope so. Oh,
there was an article on the Daily Mail. Pull up the article, Avi. They put an article on the Daily Mail or something about that. But what you said, Daisy, like these reporters, like they've been in like kind of la land with Biden, because obviously you can't talk to Biden, you can't ask him questions. The guy's not there, and all of a sudden now you have the complete opposite in Trump. And I don't think many of these reporters are actually ready for what Trump is. Like maybe they're not used to him. I remember last administration when Trump was in power, Jim Acosta and all these guys like taking it up to him. I'm looking forward this time around to see who will it be in the mainstream media from the left, especially, that takes the fight to Trump, because they love doing that. That's going to be entertaining, of course.
Bold new push for Donald Trump to seize control of Australia.
Yes, please, Daddy Trump, please.
Donald Trump's fan base is calling him to annex Australia. US president makes wild claims about planned land grab. I don't want to give Trump any more ideas, but these guys don't have guns anymore. Conservative General Chadwick Moore, in a post on social media, Oh, where's that, mate?
Well,
We
Elon
would,
Musk shared the tweet that had this stuff in there.
if COVID was anything to go by, here you go. I don't give Trump any more ideas, but these guys don't have guns anymore.
That's
if,
literally.
if COVID's anything to go by, Australia would just roll over. Aussies would just be like, all right, we're Yanks now. Look, I prefer that than the Chinese coming in, which they're going to do at some point.
I think they
Yeah,
already own the
exactly.
place. To be honest, they own the place. We just it's just
they're starting in Pine Gap. They've already got a base right over here somewhere. Do you remember that? Remember when we saw that in Alice Springs? So okay, so there was that part of the press conference. There was another part of the press conference that I absolutely adored. I've actually put it at the time here. Let's have a watch.
Do you think they're waiting for President Trump to take office?
No, I think they heard him loud and clear. Better get done by the inaugural.
But when you say all hell will
Before
be paid,
I take office.
All hell must be paid if they don't release the
You know what that
hostages.
means, don't you?
Well,
Do I have to define it for you? Look,
No,
all
I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was, and many people are killed. They're no longer hostages. I have people from Israel and others calling, begging me to get, we had also people there from the United States, just so you know. They're holding some so-called hostages from the U.S. But I've had mothers come to me and fathers crying, can I get the body of their son back? Can I get the body of their daughter back? That beautiful girl where they threw her in the car, pulled her by her ponytail and threw her in the car like she was a sack of potatoes. I said, what happened to her? Sir, she's dead. Like a 19, 20-year-old beautiful girl. And the way they treated her. And I just say it this very simply. Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They don't know. He's a great negotiator. That's what I needed. I could have sent that gentleman right over there, Hussein. He's a great negotiator. There are people, they're rare. Great negotiators are very rare, like a great surgeon. But we have the right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation. If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You've done a great job.
What's your take on that little nugget?
Well, I think he certainly means business when it comes to Hamas, and like, look, honestly, like, I'm a pacifist. I'm very, very anti-war. But he's right. The attack shouldn't have happened. Like the October 7th attack simply shouldn't have happened. They should never have been taken, and they should not still be hostages. I mean, it beggars belief, actually, that there hasn't been more pressure from the international community on Hamas to actually release those hostages. It's just sort of, oh, well, yeah, they took the hostages, and oh, yeah, we really need to worry about all the civilians in Gaza because, oh, they're getting bombed and Israel's being really mean and disproportionate, blah, blah, blah. But, oh, yeah, they took the hostages. Like, there has not been that kind of pressure that Trump is putting on Hamas from anyone to release those hostages. Certainly not from Joe Biden, certainly not from our own esteemed Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Like, I think a lot of people sort of low-key forget that there are still people stuck in the Hamas terror tunnels. So
I don't think they
no,
forget.
they probably just don't care.
I don't think they cared. I don't think they ever cared. I think
Yeah.
it doesn't fit their narrative. But
Yeah, that's the thing though. They just don't care that like 100 and whatever people were taken hostage and lots of them have been killed. Like Trump is right to draw attention to that, and it is about time, I think, that someone actually came down heavy on Hamas and said, no, this is absolutely not acceptable. You have to release them, or as Trump said, all hell is going to break loose.
Rukshan, what's your take of? Do you think he's serious?
I think he's serious, and I think the thing is, if we had this kind of posturing and attitude from the Americans at the very start of all of this, there wouldn't be this many civilian deaths and casualties. from this war that's taken place since that time. It's been going on for so long, and no one's been able to kind of break this kind of deadlock. So for Trump to come out there very strongly before he takes the presidency in 12 days and say, look, you guys have 2 weeks. If you don't sort out your crap, it's going to be all hell's going to break loose. And I think the way that Trump's gone about it and the statements that he's made, he's going to look stupid, of course, if he doesn't, do something about it in 2 weeks and these hostages aren't released. So I see him actually acting on that. What that looks like, we don't really know.
Yeah.
But I think he will act on it and do something if it's not done, because it's gone on for too long, especially in terms of the hostages. And this is what strong leadership looks like. And we've almost forgotten what it looks like from the US because, they're so silent and quiet on this when they actually do have the power and the ability to make these type of deals happen. And they just frankly didn't care for a long time. And so I take him at his word on this, and he's really put it out there that it's not the first time he said it. He's been saying it for months now, really.
Yep.
So I think he'll do something.
I think my prediction is this. My prediction is, at the moment, I think he's probably pretty close to a deal between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is they're going to drop that. They're going to, that news is going to drop immediately after the inauguration, and he's going to be like, look at this success. And at the same time, I don't know what it's going to look like. I can't fathom what it's going to look like. It's probably going to be something along the lines of Israel behind doors. He's going to say, you guys have now 4 weeks, because that's how much time I'm going to buy. That's how much goodwill I'm going to buy by ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We're going to push that message. We're getting peace. But at the same time, there is going to be a horrible war on the ground in the Middle East for about a month, but then it's all going to draw to a close. It's what should have happened in the beginning, a hard, strong finish with the full support of the American. Half of it's not even, when you talk about support, you're talking about also moral support, the backing that you're going to be protected in the UN, that you've got the full backing of the US government. I think that's what's going to happen. And then that war's going to come to an end after that, probably month, with what will only be able to, Israel has to walk away with a victory, and the victory is the return of the hostages that are alive and the bodies of those that are dead, and Hamas no longer rules the Gaza Strip. Anything less than that, nobody's going to sell it. Nobody's going to be able to twist that as a win. Like, as much as they've defeated most of Hamas's power there, if they manage to rule the Gaza Strip after all this, nobody's going to consider it a win, because at the end of the day, it just means that it's going to repeat again in probably 20 years by the time they rebuild it. What Israel's done in the north, I don't think any other fronts are really going to open. I think the Houthis, we're going to see America step up their battle against the Houthis. They're going to once and for all finish that issue. I think that's definitely, when he's talking about a broader, all hell's going to break loose in the Middle East, I think he means with the Houthis. Hezbollah's done unless that ceasefire drops. I dare say Hezbollah's not going to want to break that ceasefire when Trump's in power, because if they thought it was bad losing their leader, the beepers, the walkie-talkies, and losing Syria and everything that's happened from just refusing to sit October 7 out. Well, I think under Trump it's a lot worse. So I think he is serious, and I personally think he's going to use the cover of the success of Russia and Ukraine that he's going to have, and he's going to use that to with a deadline that's not going to be public, a deadline that's going to be behind closed doors, with the Israeli government saying, let's get it done. What do we need to do to get this done? And I think this conversation has probably been happening behind closed doors now for months, since November. And you know what? Like you said, Rukshan, I think if this was done in November 2023, we wouldn't be sitting here in 2025 even talking about this.
I mean, the moment that there were American hostages, then there was a lot of American hostages.
Exactly.
That really gave them the in to actually go sort it out very quickly, as a sign of power in the area and just sort the issue out, and we would have avoided many of these type of issues, I believe. Today, of course, now the devastation that we're seeing in terms of for the innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip is, of course, tragic when you consider that a lot of this could have been avoided by just strong leadership. So Trump, this is really showing the realignment of the world, the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, all these kind of wars and issues that we've had for many years now, kind of all coming to an end, or people actually have hope that it could end. We didn't have that. And now we kind of also have this real hope that the world is changing in a positive direction when it comes to this. So, good on Trump. And there's going to be people, I know probably, Avi, you've seen within the MAGA movement as well, who aren't happy with Trump, that he's talking like
Do you know
this.
what?
And
I think
so on.
anyone
So
that's
it's
been
crazy.
paying attention, you see, the people that are deluded, that called themselves MAGA, I don't think the real MAGA people that I met out in America, they were listening to every word Trump said. They were backing, supporting almost everything he was saying. There's the fake MAGAs that were convincing themselves that he wasn't starting every or a lot of his events, or the Republican National Congress was starting with a prayer for the hostage. Like, they're pretending like none of that happened, and Trump is somehow, changing his mind or his promise to it. Trump promised he'll end Russia and Ukraine, and he also promised the entire way. He never backed down from it, no matter how much those that claim to be MAGA were threatening to boycott. Some of them were. You remember that that entire fringe neo-Nazi, the Groper, or whatever they're called,
the Grocers, yeah.
Nick Fuentes, and all that group. They were rallying, against Trump, telling people, not advocating not to vote for Trump because of I know after Trump won, they backtracked and said that was their whole plan, because they didn't want the left to come on and say, oh, look, he's being supported by Nick Fuentes. Mate, these people are saying, man, they're irrelevant. They don't matter. I think Trump has been absolutely consistent on this the entire time. And I think, and that's why he enjoyed the largest Jewish, Jews in America, sadly, are, especially not Orthodox Jews, are Democrats. Like, that is, that's the sad reality of even Jews here. That they were always Labour. They're lefties. A big chunk of the establishment Jewish community that's not religious. Your Orthodox Jewish community, they tend not to vote, but when they vote, they'll vote conservative. But Trump enjoyed a massive surge in popularity in Jewish votes, because they recognize that when it comes to the anti-Semitic hate that we've seen across campuses in the state, around the world, but in the States, and the hate marches on the streets, the anti-Semitism on the streets, but also the American policy towards Israel in a time where Israel was struggling for friends. This has been the toughest year and a half for Israel, probably historically, since its rebirth in 1948. This has probably been the toughest couple of years, and almost the most isolated. And that's all about to change, because not only do we have Trump now, who's guaranteed to be an actual loyal friend, but this is the perfect segue into the next piece of news.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide,
so dramatic.
I've had enough of hearing from him. He's like an actor. He's like a
He's
failed
so
actor.
dramatic.
He's so dramatic, and he's so hated. He's polling at 16%. I think that is the lowest in Canadian history. He's so hated. It has nothing. He's in this whole speech, he's trying to blame it on internal politics of his party, and he's saying, he's always a fighter, and he's a fighter, and he never gives up, as he's doing a speech about giving up. It's the most comical thing, but this just confirms what we all know, is Pierre Poilievre, who is also a great leader, is about to lead Canada. in a few months, they'll have like a proper conservative, and the way he deals with me. We've talked about it a lot, Rukshan, but somebody that I think is exciting, and somebody that is, unlike Justin Trudeau, a true friend to the West and Israel. So suddenly Israel is going to go from being super isolated, even amongst its friends, including Australia. Whatever, if things seem to be trending a certain way, and the whole West seems to be going more conservative, from Trump leading the way to Canada to, I imagine, soon enough, Keir Starmer's going to drop. Like that is the direction we're going. And how do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's good. I mean, I remember when Trudeau came to power, and I remember sort of contemplating this young, pardon the thing, but this hot young thing who had suddenly taken the reins of Canada. And I actually wasn't terribly political back then. Well, I was, but I was more focused on Australian politics. I didn't know a lot about international stuff. I was very, of the Tony Abbott era. That was my political birth. But I remember looking at him and thinking, oh, okay, he's got this really diverse cabinet. Oh, I wonder, this could be interesting. I'm going to see what he's doing. And that was sort of before the birth of modern woke. And if you fast forward a couple of years, and I looked at Justin Trudeau, and then the blackface thing came out, and his mad wokery. Then there was that story about how he groped that journalist, that everyone just sort of forgave him for some reason, because he's a lefty. And now we fast forward, to now it's 9 years later, and he is so hated. I think it is just the stuff of Greek tragedies, really. That political career just started as this sort of, hot young thing with all this promise, and then to finish like this.
Oh,
like,
it's horrible. If you look at his
red-nosed
original speech,
sadness.
he has his
Oh,
wife
my
by
God.
his side. She's like there in the crowd, like hyping everyone up. Now he's quitting alone. His wife has left him. He's
No, but it is like you could write a musical about it. You could write a musical tragedy about it. And I'm aware, by the way, of the double standard I'm perpetuating by calling Justin Trudeau a hot young thing when he started. I know if I were a man and he was a woman, I'd get into trouble for saying that, but it's true. He was, and that's probably part of the reason he won that first election, was because people thought, oh, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing him on a press conference, every week. But
women are the worst. Don't they?
Women are the worst.
Roxanne,
They're
don't
the
you
worst.
feel
They're
it all the
awful.
time, how they objectify us?
I know.
I can't even
know. It's
walk
very
outside of
very
my
very
studio.
uncomfortable, right? I'm very uncomfortable right now.
I do stand
Oh,
corrected.
Roxanne, I'm sorry.
Somebody's pointed out that Keir Starmer. I included Keir Starmer in that list, not because I know when their election is, because obviously Canada has an election in what looks like in a couple of months now.
Well, I mean, even in the UK, I believe they can replace the leader, can't they? So
exactly, and there's no way that guy's.
It's not so much about an election.
There is no way that guy's going to survive 5 years. There is. It's especially with what's been trending over the last couple, but we'll get into that in a second. What's your take, Rukshan? Not that anyone's interested in it.
No, look, I mean, typically most people wouldn't know who the Prime Minister of Canada is, and that's probably a good thing, right? So everyone around the world knows Justin Trudeau, and he's looked at in disdain around the world. He's looked at as a joke.
He's like their Jacinda Ardern. It's like him and Jacinda Ardern they were well known just for all the wrong reasons. They're the ones that would freeze your bank account. Remember that? Remember that shit?
Yeah. With the truckers, right? And even Jacinda Ardern, like no one should really know the Prime Minister of New Zealand, but everyone.
Could you name the Prime
knows.
Minister of New Zealand now?
No, I don't even know who. I don't know. Oh,
I don't think anyone can. I don't think New Zealand. I don't think Kiwis can name the Prime Minister in New Zealand. But the whole world knew Jacinda.
Another country.
Jacinda Ardern. She was the one who wanted to create the two-class society. Remember that comment?
And she was open to it as well.
Yeah, the reporter said to her, don't you think you're creating a two-class society here of vaccinated, unvaccinated? She goes, oh, yeah. Yeah. That is.
And remember when she said, somebody else is mentioning it in the comments here, but remember when she said that the government is the only source of truth.
We will be your sole source of truth. Oh, chilling.
If you don't see it from us, it's not true.
It's not real. It never happened. Even if you see it, don't believe your lying eyes.
Yeah, so
So
this
my
is
point, my point was that as soon as people around the world end up knowing leaders like that, it's a bad sign for the country. So people around the world know Albanese, it's a bad sign for Australia. But Trudeau, you would have seen the videos of him trying to talk to world leaders at forums. He was very awkward. They would ignore him. I mean, he was a joke all around the world, and he just happened to be the Prime Minister of Canada, and the people have had to put up with him because they keep voting for him or whatever they do. So I think
Daniel
it's good
James,
he's gone.
who writes, who's in charge of many of Rebel Australia and New
Yeah,
Zealand
Luxon, yeah.
stories, is now showing off that he knows the Prime Minister of New Zealand, mate.
Who is he? Who is he?
Luxon. He posted
What's his first name though? That's the thing. I thought it was Winston Peters, but no,
No, Winston Peters is the deputy, I think.
Yeah,
Winston Peters is a
something like that.
Do you guys remember those photos, speaking of Justin Trudeau, that went viral of Ivanka Trump looking at Justin Trudeau a few years ago like he was a damn snack? Like, do you remember that?
Roughly remember, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I've just image searched it now. If you image search Ivanka Trump, Justin Trudeau, I remember that meme went viral and it was just like, find someone who looks at you like Ivanka Trump looks at Justin Trudeau.
We'll have to bring it up now.
It was pretty fun. And there was one with Melania Trump and Justin Trudeau as well. These photos of Justin giving her
Daisy's
a very...
been keeping tabs on these.
On Justin Trudeau, yeah. I'm giving...
Is this the one you're
Melania
talking
Trump.
about?
Yeah. That one.
Let's get her up.
And there's one as well where she's sort of got like her hand under her chin going, oh, it's like, oh, you're so lovely. And there's another one with Trudeau giving Melania Trump a very loving sort of kiss on the cheek. There it is. Yeah,
This looks like a good one. Where is it?
Is it because he speaks French, Daisy? Is that the allure here, or just his schoolboy looks?
What the boy the collegiate sort of good looks and
the Fidel Castro DNA, the Latin American DNA shining through.
I love
perhaps.
the Castro.
That might be what it is. It's that Latin DNA that evidently women find so irresistible.
Exactly, it's just coming through.
This is so politically incorrect, but
you
it's very funny.
You guys are way too mean, and I'm going to have to stop you there. Now we're going to have to get into something a little bit more serious. Speaking, and we did correct ourselves with Keir Starmer. Yes, he's not up for re-election soon, but the reason why I think his days are numbered, if you've been following what's been happening, especially on X, but it is then, as it does, made world news, and especially in England, really pushing things along is Elon Musk's involvement in the whole grooming gang conversation, Tommy in jail conversation. But so there was a vote. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday.
This morning.
This morning here. Yeah.
I sent you the video for that.
I've got. Oh well, I did my own research, mate. I don't need your help.
Oh. Fair enough.
I just call you when the computer breaks down, mate. Stick to stay in your lane. So MPs vote against the amendment.
Ayes to the right, 111. The noes to the left, 364.
The ayes to the right were 111, the noes to the left 364. So the noes have it, the noes have it.
So like that was for an inquiry into a national inquiry on the grooming gangs, which is like the politically correct way of saying pedophile rape gangs from Pakistani backgrounds, where they targeted white British girls, something that who we may not fully name on some of the platforms we're on now, including Zuckerberg, the free speech warriors platforms. They voted against it, or every Labor MP, every single Labor MP, including those from those towns where their constituents were victims of those crimes, they voted against it. So, and you can see how angry people are about that. What's have you been following that story, and what's your reaction to, well, the way it's been playing out online and how it's pushing this along finally after all these years, and the vote against it?
I've been following it a bit. It's quite distressing. Obviously, as we all know, I think it's amazing how much influence Elon Musk now has in global affairs. I mean, that's certainly one thing to note, that basically the Tories have picked up on this, at least in part because Elon took an interest in it and condemned it and condemned Keir Starmer. So I think that social phenomenon is fascinating. I think the vote was fascinating and tragic. I mean, the excuse that the Labor politicians gave was that apparently this amendment for this inquiry would have killed another bill they were trying to pass for child protection, which wasn't specifically associated with child sexual assault. It was more about education and protecting kids who were being homeschooled, etc. So they said, oh no, we can't possibly vote for this inquiry because then this other bill that we're trying to pass is going to get canned. And how dare the Tories? Oh, do you hate children, Tories? You hate, you don't care. They did that kind of thing. But it just feels like a really convenient excuse not to have an inquiry into this. And I know people have said, oh, there has been a child sexual assault inquiry. It went for 7 years. It ended in 2022. But that one didn't have a focus on the grooming gangs. That was a more kind of general one, whereas the grooming gang issue is a very specific issue. It's locationally very specific. It's culturally very specific. It's ideologically very specific. You can't just sort of shove it into a general inquiry about child sexual assault and expect it to be interrogated properly. Other excuses I saw was, oh, well, these inquiries are more effective when they're handled locally in the towns. It's like, well, can you maybe support the towns, then give them some money to fund their own inquiries? Like, have the Labor people thought of maybe doing that? So it all just seems very convenient to me that these Labor pollies had this excuse to vote down this inquiry. Particularly convenient since dear old Sakir, wasn't he was the head of Crown prosecution or something?
I was going to get to that. Yeah. So he, a lot of people are pointing directly at him, and he was part apparently of or a lead against prosecuting a lot of these cases back then for the reasons that was given, as in they didn't want to encourage racial division, racial hate.
Racism,
They were arresting fathers of victims for daring.
Avi, I sent you a video. You should play it.
Where did you send it?
Just to the Yemen report. Yeah, I mean it's a father calling in about what he's been through and what the police are saying to him. I think it's really important that people hear just how much it's impacted these families.
I see that you've sent me stuff. I didn't realize you sent me stuff today because I usually just ignore you, so it's like it's just normal.
But play the one from Talk.
Yeah, I've got it here. Yeah, I can see. Yep. Oh wait, no, not there. Sorry, mate. We will pull it up, mate. It's pretty cool that I have the power here. Did you know that, Daisy? Like back when we first started this, Rukshan was the one that controlled the narrative, and
and now
it was such a rubbish show back then. It was rubbish. It was embarrassing.
That's so mean to Rukshan.
It was embarrassing what we were putting out, and I'm just
thank you for noticing, Daisy.
I'm glad.
Rukshan, I think you should file like an HR complaint.
Definitely, I'll definitely have you as a witness.
And I will be a witness at your hearing or whatever it is.
Perfect. That sounds wonderful.
It's not very nice. Here we go. What do we got? There we go. Rukshana, there's your message. Finally, you did something for the show.
I'd like to talk to you about my daughter. Back in 2004, my daughter was gang raped. Pakistani Muslims from Oldham. They travelled 18 miles to my town to get to my daughter. I phoned when I found out, I phoned the police up. Now, this had been going on for a few weeks and I didn't know because I used to work 100 hours a week to pay for my kids to go to private school. And when I found out, I phoned the police up. Police constable come, 2 of them, basically told them what has been going on, told me to let it go, otherwise I will get arrested for being racist. She could pick any boyfriend she wanted. She was 13-year-old and he was 20.
I don't know what to say to you. I mean, first of all, thank you. Thank you for on the show. You're telling me the police genuinely said to you, let it go?
Let it go.
Your 13-year-old daughter is being groomed by a 20-year-old who's travelled 18 miles to your hometown. You're phoning me now live from Lancashire. Your daughter was raped by a Muslim man. You know this for a fact. She admitted that. You went to the police and nothing has ever happened.
Nothing happened. The only thing that happened is that 4 cars and a van came up from Oldham to look for me, to do me. And I had a friend who phoned, because I was at work at the time, phoned me up and said, John, don't come into town. He said, there's a huge gang of Muslims looking for you. He said, don't come into town. He said, we can tackle this afterwards. So obviously there was no point phoning the police up again, because so I did what any dad would do.
Let's not talk about that, because I don't want to talk about that, because I don't want to say anything that will get you into trouble. Let me ask you, if you're okay with this, a couple of questions. Are you racist?
No.
When you
I have Muslim friends.
What do they say about this abhorrence?
Oh, well, I have one chap, I won't mention his name, and he's turned around to me and said, I'm so sorry, John. He said, there's a lot of us. He said, all right, we know what's been going on. He said, it's all down, he put it all down to the clerics and whatever, that they go down to the mosques.
But your friend and people like him, and I'm not having a go at your friend, they need to be vocal. I've been saying this for weeks. The police, this is why I agree with Mike Graham wholeheartedly. There needs to be maybe not a national inquiry, and if there is going to be one, it doesn't need to be the police, because they can't mark their own homework. There's too many problems with the police, and I believe...
I think that's enough on that one, but that kind of gives them perspective.
I was drawn to listening to that. That's what I was talking about, and it is, you can see in the comments, and that's just the natural reaction, is how heartbreaking. I don't know if I know Rukshan isn't a parent, I don't know if you are, Daisy, but I couldn't imagine the horror you'd be living through. I got 2 daughters. I imagine I couldn't. You don't even want to, but I can't imagine as a parent. And then calling the people that are supposed to help you, to seek justice and protection for your child, and 2, to ensure that it stops happening, to lock them up, and then to be told, let it go or you're going to be deemed a racist. And then they came after him, and they're coming after him. Like mind-blowing. But that's just one. There's story after story after story, and you see some of the victims now have grown very quickly on on X specifically, because that's the platform that's really been leading the charge on finally dealing with this issue in a mainstream kind of way. You have people like Tommy that's for it for years, but was called every name under the sun. The character assassination still happens today. You have Nigel Farage and Piers Morgan trying to diminish the work that he did in this space. But so we've known about a lot of this for a long time, but I feel like even now, Rukshan, you're seeing a lot more of parents, the dads coming out to, telling their experience, and also a lot of the victims. And it is as heartbreaking as, Tommy was telling us 10 years ago it was, and no one was listening.
But even today, Avi, that other tweet that I sent you from that Sammy, who's actually a victim.
Yeah, that's
so. If you read that tweet, that is from today. So the police are still calling victims. Now that victims are speaking up on platforms like X, they're receiving phone calls from the UK police telling them to remove their posts talking about this. I mean, the level of control that the police are trying to exert over these people who are victims is insane.
Here you go.
Merely for talking about their suffering, just read that
So
post.
Sammy Woodhouse is a known one of those victims that I mentioned that recently has her platforms has grown. There's a bunch of them, really because I think Elon's been retweeting them. I've received a phone call from South Yorkshire Police tonight about my reporting on X. They've asked me to delete posts and not report on Rotherham professionals moving forward, even though there's no reporting restrictions on the case. I'd like to add the information I've reported came directly from South Yorkshire Police over 6 months ago. It's also been in the public domain for over 6 months. I'd also like to add the police officer didn't really have a clue what was going on. Now, what's important for people to understand when it comes to this one, like the thing that it's been in the public domain. Like if you remember, Tommy, and it's one of the arrests that I see Piers Morgan keeps going on about when he tries to character assassinate him when he's talking about when he's trying to tell people that he's actually the devil. One of the things that he keeps referring to, one of his previous convictions, was what he claims was Tommy had almost destroyed one of the cases against the grooming gangs by standing outside the court and saying defamatory stuff. But what really actually happened, like this Sammy is saying, he was reading, because the thing is, these people try to lie to us and they want us not to believe our own eyes. I remember watching that live as it happened. I became friends with him after that, and I'd worked for him and all that, so I know him on a personal and professional level. But also, I'm saying we all watched that happen live in front of us. He was reading a BBC article outside a court that, yes, there was a gag order on, but he was reading information that was in the public domain, already reported on by BBC, and it was already the deliberations had happened. They were just handing down the sentencing. It was not going to crash the case. It was absolute nonsense what Piers was talking about. And this is the thing. This is what I fear with Sammy. Like, I don't know. These people are crazy. Look, I guess it's a lot easier to target, the white football hooligan, and lock him up. Will it go down as easily? And it didn't even go down that easy back then, if you remember. But like nowadays, they're struggling with him in isolation and the kind of backlash the government is getting. Like the vote in Parliament all came from this. But will they lock up a victim of one of the gang rape gangs? Possibly. It's the UK. They've been emptying the jails of rapists and murder rapists and violent offenders to make room for people that have published mean stuff on social media.
Yeah,
and that's not exaggerating. That is actually happening across the UK. They're releasing violent thugs who have committed atrocious, horrific crimes to make room to lock up people for social media posts. And even like not even incitement. Some of the posts are like literally, they're just deemed offensive. Some of them they might deem as incitement, but even then, you want to compare somebody that's bashed the living daylights out of an innocent victim, that has robbed him, that has beaten, or a rapist, or literally a rapist. They're letting him out. But so have you been following that story in the UK, and is it new? Are you familiar with it? Like, have you been following it for years, or is this something that's just popped up in your radar as well?
The grooming gang specifically, or the he who must not be named situation?
No, the grooming gangs. I think that's
the grooming gang, because I've been following his situation probably most closely, I think, for the last sort of the last sort of 6 months. I've been following his situation. Yeah, a bit less than 6. I've interviewed him a number of times on my show on ADH. And he and I had a long discussion, actually, the first time I interviewed him, about the grooming gangs, which I said I became aware of around 2015. And that was I think around the Rotherham report came out in 2014. So yeah, that was sort of when it all started to blow up. But it is just so extraordinary to me, the ability of human beings, and look, we're all guilty of it. Most of us, thankfully, not to the extent in Rotherham and the other towns, but of turning a blind eye when it's not convenient to say anything. You know, the fact that, as you know, that terribly tragic phone call, you know, the very people who are supposed to help us and to, you know, protect us as a society when we need it, we're just going, hey, let it go. Let's not do anything about it because we don't want to be called racist, even though children were being gang raped by a group that, as I remember having this argument with people, or, you know, until I was blue in the face. I'm like, no, the reality is they come from places that are culturally hostile to women. That is just a fact. Like, and an unveiled white woman especially is like the lowest form of life to this particular culture. And that's not all Muslims, obviously, but the particular places have that attitude. Of course, there was going to be a problem dropping them into country towns in England. Like, how did nobody foresee that could possibly be an issue? And then to try to sweep it under the rug because you don't want to be called racist. I mean, it is just like when children are being exploited and raped, it is just, there aren't sort of any words for it, really, you know. But it's I guess it's good that it's come up again, because it's a reminder to us all that no, this did happen. These victims are real,
and it's still happening.
They have been
There's reports of it still happening,
and it's still happening. Yeah, exactly. So, it's a shame the UK Parliament voted down the inquiry. But look, at least Elon Musk is talking about it, which means that everyone is talking about it. So, hopefully there will come a day when it doesn't happen anymore. I don't know when that day will be, but hopefully that day will come.
Well, I think was something you wanted to add, Rukshan?
Look, I mean, it's very obvious there's a very kind of clear racial element to this whole thing. It's hard to avoid the fact that these women, these girls, young girls, were selected because they were white by these predominantly Pakistani Muslim gangs. It's very deliberate what they've done. And then the cover-ups also are racially based in terms of the way that the police have responded to this and the authorities have responded to it, whereas they're saying, well, you're going to be racist if you talk about this, so we can't talk about it. The actions today, I believe, are also based on this kind of idea of social cohesion that we don't really want to go into this in too much detail because of the other issues that might arise in the society. Of course, they want to protect themselves and their failures. That's definitely an obvious fact as well. But I think there is a massive racial element here where, you know, the UK is far advanced in terms of going down this path that they might not ever be able to reverse. You know, the societies are kind of falling apart in terms of the identity of the UK. And, you know, it's kind of a warning to everyone else that this is how you end up when you, honestly, like what Daisy was saying, take people that aren't really compatible and just plop them in a place where it's a very kind of, you know, innocent, they're not maybe used to this kind of behavior. Now, a lot of people talk about the grooming and kind of the rapes and gang rapes that happen in parts of Asia. But the thing is, even though that happens, a lot of the people are aware of what they're up against. And that's why a lot of those women are protected. That's why women aren't sent out at night by themselves, because these type of individuals, these seedy individuals, try to operate in those countries as well. But then to have them brought over to the UK and have the naivety to think that for some reason that they won't behave in the same manner when they're unchecked and there's no protections whatsoever for the public is ludicrous. And, you know, I think it's just kind of, this is just surface level stuff. I think this inquiry, if they did ever go ahead, it would show that it's been like almost an institutional style of gang rape that's happened greater than what we even know about. And I think that's what they're really afraid of.
Someone
letting
makes
out
a
of the
good
bag.
point in
So
the comments. The Scaff brothers, we had our own incident here back in the 2000s, which is kind of reminiscent of what's happening.
that was a Lebanese gang, was it?
Lebanese, yeah.
In South Wales or Victoria, yeah.
Now that leads me straight into the final, because I think when people in Australia think, oh well, that can only sort of happen there, and you make a good point. I think we should look at the UK and heed the warnings. You know, have you flew into? Did you fly into London for the what was it, the ARC or whatever? The ARC.
Fuck. No,
Yeah,
no, I didn't go.
Roxanne, you did. You flew into London. Have you flown into London recently?
I did
Myself?
actually. Middle of middle of last year, I flew into London. Actually, yeah.
So when you fly in, like
Yeah.
I've gone there over the last, I don't know, 6 years, let's say. You know, a bunch of times, probably a year apart, and you could literally see the progression. You could see like the first time, oh yeah, there was like, it was pretty mixed, and then you know the last time I flew in, which was, I think that was for ARC. So was it for ARC? Which was what, like
Yeah,
a year?
it was Clark.
Yeah, just after October 7th. So
2 years ago.
Not 2 years ago, a year
and a half.
A year ago, a year and a bit. It was the end of 2023. It was after, because I came from Israel, so it was November 2023, right? So 13 months ago. Yeah, I'm the mathematician.
HR, get onto HR, Rukshan.
But
There's no fact checkers anymore. The fact checkers are gone. So.
You landed, and I felt like I landed in like Islamabad, and the first like Brit I met was the Black Cat. That was the first British person I met when I arrived, and you're just like, what is going on? Where's the culture gone? Where's anything? There's no sense of Britain, especially not in London. You kind of have to go out to get it, and I can understand the frustration of especially the working class, who everybody has ignored, has labelled them racist, but also the institutions that kind of enforced everything and forced everything. And what I'm trying to get at is a segue into the next video, which is letting people know that is heading here if we're not super careful. You can argue that it has already started in Australia, and in fact, this story is from actually late last year, so a few months ago, I think, but it's just received airtime again because I think Elon Musk retweeted it, and it's in relation to Australia.
Victorian magistrates have been trained on how to avoid imposing sentences that would result in violent migrant criminals such as pedophiles and drug dealers being deported from Australia. Joining me is former Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria, Kevin Bell. Kevin, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you very much.
I think pretty much the opening says it, like you can understand what they're saying. The magistrates are doing courses in how to protect violent pedophiles, drug dealers, criminals who are violent immigrant offenders, including rapists and pedophiles, to ensure that you don't give them a sentence that will also, at the end of it, cause them to be
deported.
Isn't that what we want?
Yeah. That's the best time to deport them.
Yeah, I thought that would sort of be like a no-brainer in that situation, is if you do that kind of stuff, you maybe shouldn't be allowed to stay in the country if you're not from here originally. Like, why would we not want to deport someone who committed those kind of crimes? I don't understand that. That's insane. Like, there's no other word for it. That is insane. That is
it's the same concept, and it's the idea of like, if you have those feelings, Daisy, if you think that must mean you're racist. because
Oh, yeah.
somehow this is about race. It's about you not wanting the immigrant pedophile to live here. You know, if it was up to me, we'd deport all pedophiles. I don't care where they go. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Send them all to Tasmania. Like, let's deport them.
Oh, poor old Tasmania.
I know.
Send them to an island. Send them to an island somewhere that's not Tasmania.
But the idea that if we have an opportunity to get rid of them legally, shouldn't we be educating the magistrate to do it?
Yeah, I mean that's it's so weird, but it is, as you say, it's that gaslighting. Like if you have any objection to someone who is an immigrant who's committed a crime for being here, or a bad crime, that is, not a petty crime, but a bad crime for being here, then yes, somehow you're racist. But I think it is, which is of course not true. It's not the people's race that people have an issue with. It's the fact that maybe they're not of an excellent character to be in the country, and also it's this willful conflation of race and culture that I think the left sort of trips itself up over, whereas race and culture are two like very different things. Like on the subject of the UK again, and you know, you talk about the working class being called racist because they're worried about culture. Culture is very important, and you don't have to be of a certain color, I don't think, to happily partake in a particular culture. I mean, there are British people out there who are very, very posh. They're very British. They're very culturally British, who are black or Chinese or Hispanic or whatever, because they've grown up in the culture and they embrace it and they love it. They're just very, very British in how they behave and the way they think and the way they feel. It has nothing at all to do with the color of their skin, but everything to do with the culture that they have willingly immersed themselves in or been brought up in. So culture has actually nothing to do with skin color. Skin color is sort of incidental in a funny sort of way, but the left freaks out and thinks that any kind of criticism of culture is inherently racist, when that's simply not the case. I mean, we should be able to criticize people for their actions and criticize different culture for doing things that we don't agree with, regardless of the skin color of the people involved, because it doesn't actually have anything to do with skin color.
I do remember, Daisy, one instance where left was very open to deporting people, and that was during COVID time. And I believe, Ivy, there was a few deportations during COVID time of people that broke lockdown rules or attended protests. So that actually happened.
And the only time because Australia does deport, like under Section 501, if you go to New Zealand and you talk about, they're called 501ers, I think, and that is Kiwis that have committed offence. And then under Section 501, which is a character test, they can cancel if you're not a permanent resident in Australia. So if you there's a lot of Aussies, a lot of Kiwis that have lived here most of their life, brought up families or whatever, committed offences, and they've been deported after years. Even if some of them don't have any family, they were born here as kids, grew up, never did the paperwork, and essentially once they've committed offences, the state has gone out of their way to kick them out and deport them. And that's a conversation we can have, whether that's ethical or whatever, and if that's right. But it's weird how it's not racist to do it to our closest brothers, which are the Kiwis, which are essentially like our little Aussie, like poor brothers and sisters. They just feel bad for. They got, like the worst thing is when you're overseas and they confuse you with a New Zealand accent. You're like, what?
New Zealand. No.
But like there's no thing about racism. There's no one's trying to protect, at least not on this side of the ditch. Nobody's trying to protect these criminal Kiwis, and the government goes out of their way to deport them. And I think it's because it's easy. It's easy for the government to go, you see, we're deporting criminals. But then as soon as you start talking about immigrant criminals from, let's say, Africa or, Middle Eastern or
Syria,
Pakistani, then the government will bend over backwards. They will give training courses to magistrates in how not to send them back. So Kiwis we can kick out. even if they've grown up their entire life here and they have an entire family, what's his name? What's the football player? His dad was one of those. Dustin Martin, is it? Am I right?
Oh, Richmond
It sounds
player.
right, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so not a footy thing. So, anyways, but here's one of the stories. He's a 501er that was sent back. These people were sent back who have lived most of their lives here and they, raised kids here. And again, I'm not saying that that's even wrong. What I'm saying is, if we can
It's the
find
double
it not
standard.
racist to do it to Kiwis because it's easy for us, because we don't feel like, even though many of them are Māori and whatever, we feel like, we almost feel like we're one lamb. We're just sending them back to their state, right? And for a lot of these people, it is devastating. You're talking about people years later who haven't committed offences for years, and that have an entire family here, and then they're forced to go back and restart their entire life with nothing there. But then if you have a new immigrant to Australia who's a pedophile, the magistrate's been taught how to protect him from being sent back home. It is insanity, and I think that as Australians we should look at what's happening in the UK, in Europe, for a bunch of things, including this, because we are heading down that path. And I dare say that I think that the UK is probably too far gone, but we're
I think
not.
it's too far gone. Yeah, UK is definitely too far gone. In terms of the deportation thing you're talking about, Avi, I think deportation for a new migrant to this country that is not a citizen should be the baseline. Like, that is, before you come, that if you break the law in Australia, most likely the first thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to be deported. Basic trial, whatever, you're guilty, you're out of the country. Like, that is the limit of what we should do. And that makes complete sense, because at the end of the day, they're here on invitation. That we do all these good character tests, and they got to fill out all this paperwork before they come here to show that they're of good character to come to Australia. And as soon as they get in here and they do commit these heinous crimes,
and we try to protect them.
We try to protect them. It just makes no sense whatsoever. So the baseline should be deportation for these type of crimes, especially. And these things are, of course, this wokeness in our court system, like that guy that assaulted me and you, Avi. And I think in the sentencing, the judge took into consideration that he was impacted by what was happening overseas.
He said he had 50 family members that were killed.
And if true, tragic, but that should not affect.
If true, tragic, but also I'd like to point out that if he had 50 family members, they're saying it's 1-to-1 ratio of Hamas terrorists. So if he had 50 family members that were killed, I got to say he's got a lot of Hamas family members. And this is not, Mohammed Sharab walks around with Hamas patches on him, so it doesn't surprise me to hear that half his family is potentially Hamas terrorists. But they're bending over backwards even for him. To keep him in Australia.
What is that sentencing? Like, how does it make sense that if you're an Australian, you're in Australia, that you can commit crimes here against the people of this country, and then turn around and say, well, I did it because of something that's happening elsewhere and I was affected by it. I mean, that shouldn't be taken into consideration whatsoever.
No.
So, I mean, I think, UK, like you said, is far gone. Australia is down that path. How we stop it, I think that is the real question. Even now, when we're seeing this vote that's happened, what are the changes? Is this story going to blow over in a few weeks? Are we going to forget about this in a few years' time? It'll become something as well. These things tend to go away. And what are the real significant changes that are going to happen here? Or will it take, a story to come out of another 20, 30 girls, young women that have been raped in this way that comes to the surface? That's not how we should be as a society in the West. But unfortunately, we're living in like this world where we no longer have control. We can't protect ourselves. The law's against us. The police are against us. Just to have a normal, decent life is very difficult now. And it sucks, frankly.
I get the feeling Elon Musk is not going to let in. And so hopefully it doesn't go away, because anything Elon Musk talks about these days ends up going to the top of the news cycle.
Yes,
Daisy, before we go, we're going to go, we're just going to, in a minute, move over just to the Rebel News Plus community group for the last 5 minutes. So, guys, if you want to join us in a minute, all the normal pages are going to shut down. So you've got to go to theopposition.show. We'll spend a few minutes just chatting there. And if any of you want to just join in, you just press the join the show blue button. That's theopposition.show. You just type that into your thing. And if you're not a member already, become a member. That supports us, helps us keep the lights on because Newsmax isn't buying us out. And so we rely 100% on our viewers. So the opposition.show, become a member. You get all the perks that come with it too. That's all the documentaries, all the access to all the shows there, and you get to support us. And you get to join in the conversations on Thursday nights with myself and Rukshan, sometimes with the guests, and also on Tuesday nights. So Daisy, before we shut down the main channels, again, where can people find you?
They can find me on YouTube. Just put my name, Daisy Cousens, into YouTube. They can also find me on X. You can find me on Instagram. And you will find me also on Newsmax Australia when we are back up, which should be pretty soon. So stay tuned to my social media channels, and all of that announcement will be up there.
Such a show off.
Amazing.
Rukshan, where can people find you?
People can find me at The Real Rukshan on
This
X.
is assuming people want to find you.
Want to look for me, that's right. They can find me on X at The Real Rukshan. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Odyssey, and my website, www.realrukshan.com. I might apply for a job at Newsmax, actually. They might treat me a bit better than the treatment that I receive here. Daisy seems quite nice.
If you get a job at Newsmax, it is 100% a DEI hire. 100%. 100%. Guys, if you want to...
I'll take
I'm
it.
going to call HR on your behalf, Rukshan.
The best thing is I am HR.
This is terrible. Oh, no!
He is the HR.
Rukshan files a complaint.
You, Rukshan.
Rukshan files a complaint at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And we have a meeting about it, and I generally laugh. Guys, you can find all my socials at followrv.com. I'll make it easier for you. Again, thanks again, Daisy. We'll stick around for 5 minutes, have more of a casual chat. Not that this was anything official. Nothing is official with Rukshan in it. We can't have anything serious around that guy. So we're going over to the opposition.show. Rukshan, how'd you find tonight's stream?
That was very good. I think, we were a bit rusty when we did it last time, the first week back after the holidays. We were a bit rusty, but today was good. Everything kind of ran smoothly. And yeah, it was, I think it's always hard, I guess, touching on these type of topics as well. It's a bit confronting. I noticed.
What are you talking about?
The grooming stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough topic. Even from the comments I was watching on the stream, like some people were quite impacted by hearing that father speak, especially.
Oh, so, that was horrible. I didn't actually listen to it before.
It's quite horrible.
Really
I mean, the reporters that are, I think, dealing with this story, and the journalists that are actually breaking these stories and going through all this, I think it must be quite a bit of a sick story, really. I mean, obviously we need to bring light to it, but it just shows you the importance of what we all do. So yeah, that's just kind of how I felt about today. I think it was some good awareness raising.